Hey guys, it's James here at Kickstarter Boardgame Spotlight, and I am here with Richard Ham, better known as Rahdo from Rahdo Run-Throughs. Richard?
Hey everybody!
So we're going to be doing some questions today with Richard and letting him kind of go through and give us a little bit of background information and just give us some little insight about some of the things that he does. So, one of the things I know, Richard, is that you're from the video game industry. How does that kind of apply to what you're doing with your run-throughs?
Well, when I was in the video game industry, of course, I was actually making games as opposed to reporting on them. So it's a tentative link at best. But I would actually say probably the biggest overlap is the fact that when I started doing Rahdo Runs Through, I was actually taking my inspiration for my style of presentation from Let's Play videos, which were just starting to become a thing, whatever it was, 5 years ago. Nowadays they're ubiquitous. Like the most watched videos on YouTube, period, are Let's Plays of video games. But back then, 5 years ago, they were only just starting out, and I thought, wow, these are really cool. Why isn't anybody doing these for board games? Because I enjoy board games so much more. Well, I've got an iPhone. I can try it. Why not? Let's give it a go. So, I mean, I definitely, there's no choice about it. I took inspiration from the video game industry in that regard.
Okay, all right. So, like, if you weren't doing your channel with that kind of background, what do you think you'd be doing?
I mean, would I be doing a different show, or what would I be doing if I wasn't actually doing a show altogether?
That's right. What if you were doing a show altogether?
Well, I'd probably play a lot more games, to be honest. Or actually, I'd play a lot more of the same game and a lot less new games, because as it is right now, I mean, to keep feeding the machine that is Rahdo Runs Through, I'm learning and playing 3 or 4 or 5 games a week from scratch with my wife, and we very, very rarely ever get to revisit the games we really, really love. And while that's okay, I'm certainly not complaining. I'm not going to play the world's smallest violin for myself, because I'm incredibly lucky to get to play all the latest, hottest games as much as I do. But I know it is something that kind of bothers my wife. I mean, we love playing board games together. It's our #1 shared activity. And she's always kind of bummed that we can't just bust out Gates of Loyang every once in a while, because she loves it so much and she misses it. But sorry, honey, we got to play Yokohama. No time for Gates of Loyang.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so when you sit down to make a video game or podcast, what are some of the thoughts that go through your mind when you're creating the content? I know there's a lot of reviewers and people out there creating content right now, and so any tips on do you give them there?
Okay, thoughts that I go through my mind before I start filming. Well, I mean, if you're looking for just like general guidelines, let's see, I've been doing this I'm on my 5th year now, and probably the biggest things I've learned is to curtail the natural predilection towards saying a lot. It's a silly little thing, but I go back and I watch the videos I was doing for the first couple of years, and I'm just literally and it's just like nails on chalkboard. And it's important, though, that you do ensure that while you're actually talking, you are actually being is charismatic the right word? I mean, you do have to create a compulsive and interesting narrative. Some of the videos I see, people, I mean, if anything, there's like too much dead space, or they talk very, very slowly, or there's a lack of animation. I think probably my biggest strength as a presenter is the fact that I do kind of bounce off the walls. I talk fast. I'm very, very upbeat, very up-tempo. And it's because of that I just never wanted to have a moment's silence that I used to go into. I just would go to I just ummed like crazy, just so that there was like a continuous, smooth, fluid, I just did it, series of thoughts. And, a lot of people point out to me, you are saying way, way too much. And so it is now something every time when I sit down, I'm like, don't say just get that out of your mind. It's better. It's okay to have a little bit of empty space between words, rather than just going to those fillers over and over and over again, because it's a little thing, but it really, I think it has kind of like a psychological impact on the listener. It's funny. You ask about like general purpose recommendations I can give. Probably the biggest one I give more than anything is pay attention to your audio. It's really, really weird. I mean, YouTube is implicitly a video medium, but the quality of your audio is so much more important. People will tune out because of bad audio much more quickly. They're much more forgiving of low quality video than they are of low quality audio. So that's definitely, I mean, the best thing I ever did for Rahdo Runs Through was not actually getting a camera, not getting a tripod, was actually getting a decent lapel mic that I actually, because it just instantly sounds so much better. It sounds so much better than you and me. I'm just now talking through the air. But that's it's a very, very small investment. Most any camera will allow you to actually plug a lapel mic in, and you just instantly sounds so much nicer. It makes such a big difference.
It does. It does. I would agree. All right. So this one's a tough one. This is a tough question, especially for content creators. How do you handle negativity?
You mean negativity of myself towards the game, or negativity from the viewing audience towards my show?
Viewing audience. Yeah. The trolls. How do you handle the trolls?
Yeah. Well, obviously it's not fun. It's never pleasant. I've been actually pretty lucky. I don't know what it is about either, you know, the way my show is filmed, that maybe it just doesn't tend to draw trolls that much, because, you know, my videos are crazy long. That right there is reason enough for most people, you know, who aren't really into it to kind of tune out. I mean, I imagine if I were shorter, I'd probably draw a bigger audience than I do, but the bigger the audience, the bigger the percentage of trolls. But I do still get trolls occasionally. And I have to admit, gosh, what was it that Mark Twain said? Never argue with an idiot, because passerbys won't be able to tell the difference, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or, you know, or maybe it's George Carlin. Actually, I think both of them said that, or variations of that. You know, never argue with an idiot, because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with their experience. You know, that's what the quote is. And yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, the one thing you don't do is, you know, just start shouting back. I mean, YouTube has very, very good tools for just, you know, banning people and whatnot. Actually, I never do that. I tend to go for the, oh, well, sorry you disagree, not really getting your idea across, but thanks for watching, and just leave it at that. 9 times out of 10, if you don't give them fuel for their fire, they just go away. But as soon as you actually show them attention, that is what they're looking for. They're looking for a shouting match, because then that lets them shout. I mean, again, they're dragging you down to a level. Just don't do that, and they probably won't stick around.
Good to know. So I'm sure with my redneck accent, I'll get plenty of trolls on this video. All right, so let's swap over to Kickstarters for a second, because you handle a lot of Kickstarters on a yearly basis.
Yeah. Probably about a third of all the videos I do, about a third are Kickstarter videos, and I do about 200 videos a year. Yeah.
All right, so online I see this question come up a lot, and so I want you to kind of go ahead and make a nice general statement so it's on video one more time.
All right.
How do you, why, and are you compensated?
The reason I cover so many Kickstarters more than anything else is because I know for a fact that the vast majority of my viewing audience wants that. They want to see that stuff, because there is no more useful video that I can make for somebody watching my show than a Kickstarter video. Because if it's a game that's already out at retail, you know what? I'm not the only show in town. Chances are Dice Tower's covered it. Chances are Drive to Review has covered it. Chances are any number of other outlets have covered it. Chances are there's plenty of people on Board Game Geek doing written reviews. Chances are there's really awesome blogs that cover it. So at that point, I'm just one more voice, and I'm happy to do it, because I still think I end up creating something that helps people make an informed decision about whether the game's going to be right for them. Because at the end of the day, it's important to understand that's all I'm trying to do. I am not trying to teach people how to play games. I strongly recommend people don't do that. I am not trying to convince people of my opinion about game. I always tell people, please ignore my opinion. Just skip my final thoughts video. Don't even watch it. Just watch the run through. All I'm trying to do is create a visual document that helps you, as a viewer, decide whether that game is going to be worth the $15 or the $50 or the $150 that it costs. And that's why I think it's so important to cover Kickstarters, because when a game is on Kickstarter, it hasn't been seen by very many people. There isn't that much critical analysis of it you can go for. The best you can do is maybe read the rules and watch a demo video that the the campaign runner put up. So by me actually doing a run through, which again, you should completely ignore whether I like the game or not. It literally does not matter. I'm just some schlub with a camera. Why is my view any more valid than anybody else's? But you can watch the run through, because all I'm trying to do with my show is as close as possible replicate for you the experience of sitting down and playing that game. That's why I film from a first-person perspective. I'm trying, and you see my big old hairy arms reach up onto the screen. It's because I'm trying to give you, a moment by moment, an almost visceral connection to the game that you're seeing it from the perspective you would see. And that's why I spend so much time articulating the thought process. I mean, pretty much, as far as I know, I'm the only person who does run-through. I mean, there's a lot of people doing run-throughs now, but for the most part, they're always focused on just the raw mechanisms of the game. Right, okay, on this turn, I will do X. That means I will take 5 of these things, and the turn order, and okay, now let's see what the next player does. To me, that is the least interesting element of a game, the raw structural mechanisms. What's interesting about a game is the thought process. And so that's why, while it drives some viewers nuts, they can't stand it, that I will just literally waffle on about a given decision for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. To me, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where the magic of the game happens. And so I'm trying to articulate the stuff that would be going on in your head if you were truly playing it. And that's why I do Kickstarters, because if I don't, somebody who's thinking about Game X, it's a total shot in the dark. It's a total blind punt. And it's much more useful for people if I've given them the chance to play the game in a kind of virtual way. The other reason I do it is because they're double duty. Sure, when the game is on Kickstarter, I do the run-through, and it's a Kickstarter run-through. And I know some people just will fundamentally refuse to even watch it on principle, because I should only be covering final finished games. But the thing is, 6 months or a year later, when the game actually does eventually come out and is available on retail shelves, my video is still there. It still functions, and it just transforms instantly from a Kickstarter run-through to a commercial game run-through. Granted, the video won't necessarily show final components, but you know what? There's always going to be plenty of unboxing videos out there. You can always go and see what the game looks like on Board Game Geek. But the actual run-through I did, which is less about the persnickety rules and more about the heart and soul, the feel of the game, that will be constant. So whether you're somebody who cares about the game on Kickstarter, or whether you care about the game 5 years later when you find it at a store, the video still works. So, I mean, to me, I'd be crazy not to be covering them.
Yeah, I agree. I know about 25% of my 100 or so back projects have been, the creators can thank you for it, because I've watched your video and then jumped right in. So, compensated for doing these videos?
No, I do not. That's a very, very common question, so much so that if people would like to find the answer to common questions like that, you can go to faq.rahdo.com, where I talk about all kinds of stuff. And one of the most, as you said, most common question to ask is, do I take compensation? I take no compensation whatsoever. I do not turn on ads. I don't have YouTube ads on, which is thousands of bucks I'm throwing away every year, because YouTube ads, terrible. They're awful. I can't stand them. The way they take over, they're just terrible. So I don't turn them on. If a publisher sends me a review copy of a game, whether it's a prototype, whether it's a final, doesn't matter. Sometimes they've actually come in the mail and they've actually had checks written out to me, and I just rip them up. I accept no cash whatsoever. And in fact, the only income stream for me for Rahdo Runs Through is from the fans, like yourself. I mean, you were a fan of Rahdo Runs Through. You know I did my own fundraising. You said, oh, I like the show enough. I'd like to see it continue. I'll throw a little bit in. And hopefully you felt the rewards you got for it, in addition to the show, were worth it. And that's it. My show is 100% fan funded. And I think that's really, really important. It's important to me, as you said right up front, me coming from the video game industry, where charges of poor journalistic ethics run rampant. And I mean, I've been there. I've known some of these guys. I do know a lot of the stuff that goes on the back. For me, it's always been kind of a sensitive subject, and I just want to keep myself completely above board. Roger Ebert never accepted money from Columbia Pictures to do a run-through of Ghostbusters the movie, or a review of it, so why would I do one for Ghostbusters the board game from Cryptozoic? It's the same principle. And that said, I want to hasten to add, I do not begrudge anybody who does accept or charges a preview fee for doing a Kickstarter video. I think that's totally fine. That's just between them and the publisher. I don't think that means that they have implicitly been bought off. I don't really want to think ill of anybody. I assume everybody's a good person, and because as it happens, 9 out of 10 people, or 99 people out of 100, 99,000 people out of 100,000, 9 million, the vast majority of people in this world are good and honest. And so I have no particular reason to implicitly or inherently distrust people when they say X, Y, or Z. Innocent until proven guilty. So even if you do accept fees, that's fine. Just tell me about the game and I'll decide for myself.
Awesome. Okay, great. So what are some of the most common mistakes you see on Kickstarter projects? I know, again, you see a lot of them.
Common mistakes on Kickstarter projects. Well, a pretty common one is contacting me 2 weeks into the campaign saying, hey, we'd really love you to film the video. It's like, okay, you need to tell me that like 2 months before you started, because I've got a queue, and most everybody has a queue. I mean, it's generally not something that people can just drop and turn around, and you're killing yourself. It's so often you see, the first run of a Kickstarter, they put it out there, they've got their intro video and maybe a little bit about the game, and their enthusiasm, and they figure that's going to sell it, and that's not going to sell it. You need to have your own gameplay run-throughs, but you really do need to have an external voice. I mean, I think people are just yearning for that, even if it's a voice like mine, where I preface the whole thing saying, please disregard what I'm about to tell you. Now, let me tell you what I think. And everybody just is always concerned about the fact that, hey, I'm always positive about the games I film, and therefore why should I listen to them? Well, then don't listen to me. Just watch the video for yourself. But the fact that there is still somebody external to the project, I think gives a real sense of confidence on the part of the viewer that, okay, the people who are running this thing, they actually have their stuff together. They actually have a video. If they don't have a video, why don't they have a video? Are they literally hiding something? Yeah. That's by far the #1 mistake that you can make, and it's so surprising, even on really, really big projects. Now, sometimes it doesn't really matter. I mean, you put a project with a whole bunch of plastic minis in the box that look gorgeous, doesn't matter whether you have a video or not, you're going to do well. But still, not actually giving your potential customers a sense of what the game really, really is. I mean, I'm always surprised when when a Kickstarter launches and you scan the page and there's no link to the rules. That's crazy. How can you not put the link to the rules? If you don't have the rules done and in a presentable state by the time you've launched your Kickstarter, that's kind of a red flag. What does that mean? I mean, are you still changing the game? Have you not actually figured the game out? It's really just that kind of basic prep work that I think is the #1 thing. And then, of course, the other one is always going to be, do you actually have a game that's going to fund? I mean, you really have to make sure that you have identified. I mean, it can't just be that this game is going to succeed if you put it on Kickstarter because, well, gosh darn it, I've made it and I think it's fun and my wife thinks it's fun and my mother-in-law thinks it's fun, so of course it's going to be fun. That's not good enough. I mean, you have to prove that that you are fulfilling a niche, that there is a market for your game out there, that you are solving a problem that players have that means that they would give you $20 as opposed to somebody else. Often it's just like, the friends and family focus test is not good enough. Yeah, I call that you see that mistake quite a bit as well.
I call that the American Idol gag reel, where they come up front, everybody in their families told them that they're great singers and they get up there and they're not great singers.
Exactly, yeah. And that happens plenty of times on Kickstarter as well.
Cool. So, all right. So you were in the video game making world. What kind of games you got floating around in your head? What kind of game designs are in there?
None. Zero. Nada. Bubkus. Zip. It's the last thing in the world I want to do.
I don't accept that answer.
I'm afraid you will have to. You are making games of your own. You know how much work it is. The thing is, I know enough to know I don't want to do it. I mean, whether I've got the great idea for the next great American game or not is completely immaterial. There is so much blood, sweat, and tears that goes into a successfully developed game. I'm just too gosh darn lazy. I'd rather just turn on a camera and talk about games rather than actually make them. I mean, never mind the fact that I made games for 20 years. So I am kind of old and tired and burnt out. Another thing I admit, I would always be nervous about really getting into making games myself, developing games, designing games, because what I found is after making video games for 20 years, I can't look at a video game in the way that other people do. I mean, all I can do is just deconstruct it as I'm playing it. Think about, you know, the hurdles they must have overcome, the problems they had to solve. You know, I look at it more as from a technical exercise rather than a fun exercise. I don't want that to happen with board games. And actually, I have to admit, that's something I'm very worried about with Rahdo Runs Through. The more I do it, you know, the more involved I get. I mean, the more I see behind the curtain, the more I worry that I'm going to get burned out on board games, the same way I did on video games. Hasn't happened yet. The day it does is the day that Rahdo Runs Through stops. You know, you know, in its heart, and I say, thanks for watching, everybody. So long, bye-bye for the final time. Sure. But for now, filming the videos has not dampened my enthusiasm for playing them. I do worry that actually making the games would potentially dampen my enthusiasm. And it's just hard. It's so hard.
Yeah, it definitely takes away your time because you spend so much time working on the game. So that makes sense. All right, one last question, and then I'll turn you back to making and doing more, learning more games. Tell us something that we wouldn't know about you and Jen. Just some fun, silly, something non-board game related.
Non-board game related.
Favorite hobby outside of board gaming?
Well, our favorite hobby outside of board gaming for years was scuba diving. Although we haven't really done that for a while. I mean, actually, I was certified scuba diver at 12. And it was funny, when I was growing up, I grew up on a boat. That's probably interesting. I was homeschooled, grew up on a 42-foot steel hull sailboat that my dad built. And yeah, what was I? Probably like from 9 to 15, I think, during all those formative years. It was just me and my family. And my #1 hobby at that point was scuba diving. In fact, I mean, we lived in marinas in Central California. And if people ever dropped their keys or whatnot, I had a little side business where I'd put on my gear and go dive around in the pitch black muck trying to find their keys amongst all the unspeakable stuff that was down there. But anyway, so I was diving since I was a kid. And when we went, it wasn't our honeymoon. We didn't really have a full-on honeymoon, but like a couple of years later, we did a big, long, week-long trip to Hawaii. And so that was kind of our honeymoon. And we were out just kind of body surfing, goofing around. And I've been in the water my whole life. I'm just a water moccasin. That's not really right, but Jen, she's a really good water skier, but that's about it. And so we were just out body surfing, and she gave herself a minor concussion, and was just like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. You know, we rushed to the hospital, and so well, you need to stay in bed for the next 3 days. And so like, we're in Hawaii, we're never going to get back here. We're going to be in bed for 3 days. And so she said, well, at least I'll try. Right, half a block down the road, there was a sign that we'd driven by a dozen times saying, 3 days, learn to scuba dive. Like, oh, well, we've got 3 days now. And so that's when she sat down and did all her book learning. It was funny. The first time she ever put her face down with a mask and a snorkel on, I mean, she had a very, very hard, that was so strange for me. But she learned how to scuba dive. And so then for years after that, most of our holidays were like to Cozumel. Man, we loved going to Cozumel and doing drift diving. Eventually, we kind of burned out on that. And then we went into geocaching for quite a while. For years, we were very, very, very avid geocachers. But actually, for the last 7 or 8 years, I mean, our #1 passion by far has been board games. It has pretty much eclipsed everything else. We're not playing board games. We are walking the dog, or we're watching TV. Yeah, those are probably the big 3 things we do for fun.
Awesome. Well, Richard, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I'm just going to sign off, and thank you for spending some time with us. This is James with Drew City Games and the Kickstarter Boardgame Spotlight. Richard, give him a wave.
All right.
Thanks for talking to us.
All right. That is good talking to you. So long, everybody. Bye-bye.